For centuries, humanity had looked to the stars with hope. Radio signals, laser beams, and even physical artifacts were sent out into the void, each one a desperate plea for connection. Humanity wanted to know. It needed to know if they were alone in the universe. But when the answer finally came, it wasn't what anyone expected. The first contact happened on live television. A massive alien vessel appeared above Earth's atmosphere, its sleek design unlike anything humans could have imagined. For days, the world held its breath as scientists tried to communicate. Then, just as suddenly as it arrived, the ship vanished, without so much as a greeting or acknowledgement. It was as if Earth didn't exist at all. Over time, more alien civilizations revealed themselves across the galaxy. They'd formed alliances, traded resources, and shared technology. But none of them paid attention to Earth. Humanity was ignored, dismissed as insignificant, a primitive species clinging to a tiny blue dot in an unremarkable corner of space. The message was clear: Earth wasn't worth their time. Dr. Elena Voss sat in her small office at the International Space Research Center, staring at a wall covered in star charts and equations. She was tired of being overlooked, tired of watching humanity struggle while other worlds thrived. Her colleagues called her obsessive, but she didn't care. Something out there was waiting to be discovered. She could feel it. One night, while analyzing data from a deep space telescope, Elena noticed something strange. Near Proxima Centauri, there was a faint energy signature that shouldn't have been there. At first, she thought it might be interference or a glitch. But the more she studied it, the more convinced she became that this was real. Whatever it was, it pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat. Elena knew she couldn't investigate this alone. She needed help, and not just any help. She needed people who wouldn't ask too many questions and who were willing to take risks. That's how she found Kale, a former pilot whose reckless streak had gotten him kicked out of every major space program. Then there was Rhea, a linguist obsessed with decoding ancient alien languages, and Zane, a brilliant engineer with a criminal record longer than his resume. When Elena pitched her idea to them, they were skeptical. "Why would you waste your time chasing some random signal?" Kale asked, leaning back in his chair. "It's probably nothing." "It's not nothing," Elena replied firmly. "This could be our chance to prove we're more than what the galaxy thinks we are. If we find something valuable, maybe they'll start taking us seriously." Her determination won them over. Together, they pooled their meager resources to fix up an old starship called the Aegis. It was far from perfect. The engine sputtered, the navigation system was outdated, and the interior smelled faintly of burnt wires. But it was all they had. As the Aegis prepared for launch, Elena felt a mix of excitement and fear. What if she was wrong? What if this mission led nowhere? But deep down, she believed they were about to uncover something extraordinary. Little did she know, her discovery would change not only humanity's fate, but the entire galaxy's. And so, with a mixture of hope and desperation, the crew set course for Proxima Centauri, determined to show the universe that humanity wasn't as irrelevant as everyone thought. The Aegis hummed softly as it broke free of Earth's atmosphere, its patched-up engines straining against the pull of gravity. Inside the cramped cockpit, Elena stared out at the vast expanse of stars stretching endlessly before them. It was beautiful, but also terrifying. The galaxy had ignored humanity for so long that even this small act of leaving their planet felt like an act of defiance. Kale sat in the pilot's seat, his fingers tapping nervously on the controls. "You sure about this, Doc?" he asked, glancing over his shoulder. "We're heading into uncharted territory with nothing but a hunch." "It's not just a hunch," Elena replied, her voice steady despite the knot of doubt twisting in her stomach. "That energy signature is real. I've triple-checked the data. Something out there is waiting for us to find it." Rhea leaned forward from her station behind Kale, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. "What if it's alien? What if we're walking into someone else's territory?" "Then we'll deal with it," Zane muttered, tinkering with a loose panel near the ship's power core. His hands moved quickly, tightening screws and rerouting wires. But let's worry about keeping the Aegis from falling apart first. As the days passed, the crew settled into a routine. Kale handled navigation, charting the safest course through asteroid fields and radiation zones. Rhea spent hours poring over old alien texts, searching for any mention of Proxima Centauri or mysterious energy signatures. Zane kept the ship running, barely, and Alina monitored the signal, which grew stronger with each passing day. Despite their shared mission, tensions simmered beneath the surface. Kale's skepticism grated on Alina, while Zane's constant complaints about the ship's condition tested everyone's patience. Even Rhea, usually calm and analytical, snapped when her research hit dead ends. Yet they all knew they needed each other. None of them could do this alone. When they finally reached Proxima Centauri, the sight that greeted them took their breath away. Suspended in the void was a massive structure, a sphere shimmering with an iridescent glow. Its surface seemed to ripple like water, yet it remained perfectly still. There were no visible entrances or markings, just an aura of ancient mystery. This can't be natural," Rhea whispered, her voice trembling with awe. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. A fleet of sleek alien vessels emerged from hyperspace, surrounding the Aegis. Their design was unmistakably advanced, far beyond anything humanity had achieved. On the main screen, a figure appeared. An Arathian, tall and elegant, with skin that shimmered like liquid silver. "You have trespassed into restricted space," the Arathian said, its voice cold and mechanical. "Leave now or face consequences." Alina stepped forward, her heart pounding, but her expression resolute. "We mean no harm. We detected an anomaly here and came to investigate. We didn't know this area belonged to you." The Arathian tilted its head, studying her with piercing eyes. "Your kind has no business interfering in matters beyond your understanding. Leave, or we will remove you." Kale clenched his fists, ready to argue, but Alina raised a hand to silence him. "Please," she said firmly, "just give us a chance to explain. This discovery could change everything, for all of us." For a moment, the Arathian hesitated. Then, with a flicker of movement, it signaled its fleet to stand down. "Very well. You may remain for now, but do not interfere. If you attempt anything foolish, you will regret it." As the transmission ended, the crew exchanged uneasy glances. They had been given a reprieve, but they all knew the Arathians weren't going to make things easy. Still, Alina couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of something monumental. "We're not leaving," she said quietly, her gaze fixed on the glowing sphere. "Whatever's inside that thing, it's why we're here. And we're going to find out what it is." No one argued. For the first time in centuries, humanity had a chance to prove itself, to show the galaxy that they weren't just irrelevant primitives. As the Aegis drifted closer to the sphere, hope flickered within each of them, fragile but alive. Whatever lay ahead, they were ready to face it together. The Aegis hovered cautiously near the shimmering sphere, its crew tense and alert. The Arathian fleet loomed nearby, their sleek ships casting long shadows across the void. Despite the truce, no one on board felt safe. The Arathians had made it clear they weren't allies. They were watchers, ready to intervene if humanity stepped out of line. Alina stood at the main console, her fingers dancing over the controls as she scanned the sphere for any signs of entry points or vulnerabilities. "It's like nothing I've ever seen," she murmured, more to herself than anyone else. "There are no seams, no doors, but there has to be a way in." Rhea leaned closer to the monitor, her brow furrowed. "Maybe it's not meant to open physically," she suggested. "Some civilizations use energy fields or resonance frequencies instead of physical barriers." Zane snorted from his workstation, where he was patching up yet another malfunction in the ship's systems. "Great, so we're supposed to knock with sound waves now. This thing looks like it could swallow us whole." Kale, who had been silently piloting the ship in slow circles around the sphere, finally spoke up. "If we don't figure this out soon, the Arathians might decide we've overstayed our welcome." They didn't exactly roll out the red carpet. Before Elena could respond, the sphere reacted. A pulse of light rippled across its surface, followed by a low hum that resonated through the aegis. The crew froze, staring wide-eyed as a section of the sphere began to shift. It wasn't opening. It was unfolding, revealing intricate patterns etched into its surface. The designs glowed faintly, pulsating in sync with the hum. "It's alive," Rhea whispered, her voice tinged with both wonder and fear. "Or sentient," Elena added, her mind racing. She grabbed a handheld scanner and moved toward the airlock. "I'm going in." "No way," Kale snapped, spinning around in his seat. "You're not walking into some alien death trap alone." "I agree," Zane chimed in. "That thing could fry you the second you step inside." Elena turned to face them, her expression determined. "We didn't come all this way just to turn back because we're scared. Besides, the Arathians are watching. If something happens to me, they'll know we tried, and maybe they'll respect that." After a moment of hesitation, Kale sighed. "Fine, but we're coming with you." Together, the four of them suited up and stepped onto the surface of the sphere. The material beneath their boots felt strange, neither solid nor liquid, but something in between. As they approached the glowing patterns, the hum grew louder, almost deafening. Then, without warning, the ground beneath them shifted again, pulling them downward into a tunnel of light. They emerged in a vast chamber filled with towering structures that seemed to defy physics. Columns floated midair, connected by streams of golden energy. In the center of the room stood what appeared to be a pedestal, its surface covered in symbols similar to those on the sphere's exterior. "This place," Rhea breathed, her eyes wide. "It's incredible." Before they could explore further, the Arathians arrived. Several of them materialized in the chamber, their forms shimmering like mirages. One stepped forward, its silver skin gleaming under the golden light. "You have entered sacred ground," it said, its tone colder than before. "Leave now, or face judgment." Elena stepped forward, clutching her scanner tightly. "We didn't mean to intrude. We're here to learn, to understand. Please, let us prove ourselves." The Arathian studied her for a long moment, then gestured toward the pedestal. "Very well. Prove your worth. But know this: failure will not be tolerated." As the alien retreated, leaving the humans alone once more, Elena turned to her team. "Whatever this is, it's our chance. Let's not waste it." For the first time, they felt a spark of hope, not just for themselves, but for all of humanity. If they succeeded here, they might finally earn the galaxy's respect. The pedestal in the center of the chamber seemed to pulse with life, its golden symbols shifting and rearranging as if alive. Elena approached cautiously, her scanner humming softly as it analyzed the mysterious structure. The air around them felt charged, like static electricity prickling against their skin. "What do you think it does?" Kale asked, his voice low as though afraid to disturb the eerie stillness of the chamber. "I'm not sure," Elena admitted, her eyes fixed on the glowing patterns. "But these symbols, they look familiar." "Rhea, have you seen anything like this before?" Rhea stepped closer, adjusting her visor to zoom in on the markings. Her fingers traced the air above the pedestal, mimicking the shapes without touching them. "They resemble fragments from ancient alien texts I studied," she said slowly. "This could be some kind of interface, a way to communicate or activate something." Zane crossed his arms, scowling. "Or a trap. You touch that thing, and who knows what'll happen. We might end up launching ourselves into another dimension, or worse." Elena hesitated, glancing back at her team. She knew Zane had a point. This was uncharted territory, and every step carried risks. But they hadn't come this far to back down now. Taking a deep breath, she reached out and placed her hand on the pedestal. The reaction was instantaneous. The chamber lit up with blinding light, and the floating columns began to spin faster, creating intricate patterns in the air. A holographic projection emerged above the pedestal, showing images of a civilization long gone. Towering beings with elongated limbs and radiant eyes, their cities sprawling across planets and moons. "They're the Eldari," Rhea whispered, her voice trembling with awe. "I've read about them in fragmented records. They were supposed to be guardians of the galaxy, protectors against cosmic threats." As the projections continued, the story unfolded. The Eldari had created an impenetrable shield capable of safeguarding entire star systems from annihilation. However, activating the shield required a sentient host, one who would merge with the artifact and become its anchor. When the Eldari vanished, the shield fell dormant, leaving the galaxy vulnerable once more. Kale frowned, crossing his arms. "So, what, we're just supposed to volunteer someone to plug themselves into this thing? That doesn't sound like a great deal." "It's not just anyone," Alina said suddenly, staring at the pedestal. The symbols beneath her palm had changed, glowing brighter as they responded to her touch. "It's me. This thing recognizes me." Her words sent a ripple of unease through the group. Rhea stepped forward, concern etched on her face. "Are you sure? What if it's dangerous? We don't know what merging with this thing will do to you." "I don't have a choice," Alina replied firmly. "If this is real, if this shield can protect the galaxy, then humanity finally has a chance to prove itself, to show everyone that we're more than just ignored primitives." Before anyone could argue further, the Arathians reappeared, their shimmering forms materializing near the edges of the chamber. One of them spoke, its voice echoing through the space. "You are compatible. Your species may yet earn its place among the stars." Alina turned to her team, determination burning in her eyes. "I'm doing this. For Earth. For all of us." The others exchanged uneasy glances, but nodded reluctantly. They knew she was right. This was humanity's moment. As Alina focused on the pedestal, preparing herself for whatever came next, the chamber filled with a soft hum, signaling the beginning of the activation process. For the first time, humanity wasn't being ignored. It was being watched, judged, and perhaps even respected. And Alina Voss was ready to carry the weight of that responsibility on her shoulders. As Alina stood by the pedestal, her hand still resting on its glowing surface, the chamber began to shift. The golden energy flowing through the floating columns intensified, creating a vortex of light that seemed to stretch infinitely upward. For a moment, everything was silent. Then a deep, resonant voice echoed through the chamber. "Host identified. Shield activation protocol initiated." The words weren't spoken in any language the crew recognized, yet they understood them perfectly, as though the sphere had bypassed their ears and communicated directly with their minds. Alina's heart raced as she felt warmth spreading from the pedestal into her palm, traveling up her arm like a current of electricity. It wasn't painful, but it was overwhelming, a sensation of being connected to something vast and ancient. "What's happening?" Kale demanded, his voice tense as he scanned the room for signs of danger. "Is this thing merging with her?" "I think so," Rhea replied, her eyes wide as she watched the symbols on the pedestal rearrange themselves around Alina's hand. "It's adapting to her. But I don't know what that means for her or for us." Zane clenched his fists, clearly frustrated. "This is insane. We should have left when we had the chance. Now we're stuck here while she turns into some kind of alien battery." Alina ignored their concerns, focusing instead on the flood of information rushing into her mind. Images, sounds, and sensations bombarded her, all fragments of the Eldari's history. She saw glimpses of their civilization at its peak, their shield protecting countless worlds from cosmic disasters. But she also saw their downfall, a catastrophic event that wiped them out, leaving only the dormant artifact behind. Then suddenly, the flow of information stopped. The chamber grew darker, and the vortex above them collapsed into a single beam of light pointing toward the ceiling. In its place, a holographic map of the galaxy appeared, pulsing with ominous red dots scattered across star systems. One of those dots was rapidly expanding, growing brighter and larger than the others. The Devourer, whispered an Erathian who had entered the chamber unnoticed. Its shimmering form moved closer, its expression unreadable. It consumes all in its path. Entire solar systems have already been lost. Elena turned to the alien, her brow furrowed. What is it? Some kind of weapon. No, the Erathian replied grimly. It is a black hole, an unnatural one. It moves with purpose, devouring planets and stars, as though guided by intelligence. We have tracked it for decades, but we lack the means to stop it. The crew exchanged horrified glances. If even the advanced Erathians couldn't stop this thing, how could humanity possibly make a difference? But Elena wasn't ready to give up. That's why the shield exists, she said firmly, her voice cutting through the tension. If we can activate it, we can protect the galaxy from this threat and anything else that comes our way. The Erathian tilted its head, studying her intently. You believe your species is capable of such responsibility. I don't just believe it. I know it. Elena shot back. We may not have the technology or resources you do, but we've got something else. Resilience. Humanity doesn't back down, no matter how impossible the odds. For a moment, the alien said nothing. Then, with a flicker of movement, it nodded. Very well. Prove yourselves worthy. But know this. Time is running out. The Devourer grows stronger with each passing cycle. As the Erathian vanished, the weight of the situation settled over the group. They were standing at the edge of a precipice, staring into the abyss. The galaxy's survival depended on them, and on Elena's willingness to become the shield's host. Kale broke the silence first. So, anyone else feel like we're about to get crushed under the pressure of saving the universe? Rhea managed a weak smile. Just another day in space exploration, right? Zane groaned. I hate my life. Despite the gravity of the moment, Elena couldn't help but chuckle softly. Don't worry, she said, turning back to the pedestal. We'll figure this out, together. And with that, she plunged deeper into the connection, determined to unlock the secrets of the shield and prepare herself for the trials ahead. Whatever came next, humanity would face it head-on. Elena's connection to the pedestal deepened, pulling her further into a realm of light and energy. The chamber around her faded, replaced by an endless expanse of shimmering pathways that stretched in every direction. Each path pulsed with faint golden hues, beckoning her forward. She could feel the presence of the Eldari, their consciousness lingering within the shield, guiding her toward something she couldn't yet understand. Where am I? Elena whispered, her voice echoing softly in the void. You are within the heart of the shield, came a reply, not in words, but as thoughts flowing directly into her mind. To become its host, you must prove your worthiness. Before she could respond, the first trial began. A wave of memories flooded her mind. Her own memories. She relived moments of failure and doubt. The time she'd been rejected for funding at the research center. The countless nights spent alone in her lab, while others celebrated their successes, and the crushing weight of knowing humanity was ignored by the galaxy. It felt like the shield was testing her resolve, probing for weakness. Why are you showing me this? Elena asked, her voice trembling. I already know I've failed before, but I never gave up. That's what matters. The pathway shifted, and suddenly she found herself standing on a barren planet. The sky above was dark, filled with swirling clouds of ash. Around her, remnants of a once great civilization lay in ruins, crumbled buildings, rusted machinery, and skeletal remains scattered across the ground. This world fell because its people lacked unity, the Eldari voice explained. You must choose. Will you save them or let them perish? Elena hesitated. Save them. How? A holographic figure appeared before her, a leader of the fallen civilization, pleading for help. Behind him, shadowy figures emerged, representing factions that had torn his people apart. They argued, shouted, and fought, their discord palpable. "You cannot save everyone," one of the shadows hissed. "Your efforts will only delay the inevitable." But Elena stepped forward anyway, addressing the leader. "Listen to me. You can rebuild if you work together. Unity isn't easy, but it's the only way to survive." Her words seemed to resonate. Slowly, the arguing figures quieted, turning toward each other instead of against. The ruined city began to heal, its structures rising from the ashes as light returned to the sky. When the vision faded, Elena stood once more on the glowing pathway, breathless but triumphant. Back aboard the Aegis, Kale, Rhea, and Zane watched anxiously as Elena remained motionless by the pedestal. Her body glowed faintly, and beads of sweat rolled down her forehead. "How long has she been like this?" Kale asked, pacing nervously. "It's been hours." "She's strong," Rhea said softly. "If anyone can handle whatever's happening in there, it's her." Zane grumbled, fiddling with tools he didn't need to fix. "Yeah, well, strength doesn't mean squat if she burns herself out. What happens to us if she fails?" Kale stopped pacing and turned to face him. "Then we pick up the pieces and keep going. That's what we do." Meanwhile, inside the shield, Elena faced her next trial. This time, she was confronted with visions of Earth, its cities crumbling, its people starving, its skies choked with pollution. The Eldari voice spoke again. "This is your home. Will you sacrifice yourself for it, even if it means losing everything else?" Elena's chest tightened. She thought of her family, her friends, and all the lives depending on her. Then she thought of the galaxy, the billions of beings who would suffer if the devourer wasn't stopped. Without hesitation, she answered, "Yes, if saving the galaxy means giving up my life, then so be it." The pathway brightened, and a sense of calm washed over her. She had passed the trials, but the cost was still unclear. When Elena finally opened her eyes, she looked different. Her gaze carried a newfound intensity, as though she now carried the weight of the universe on her shoulders. The crew stared at her, unsure whether to celebrate or mourn. "I did it," she said quietly. "But this is just the beginning." And deep within the shield, the Eldari AI stirred, whispering secrets only Elena could hear. Elena stepped back from the pedestal, her body trembling slightly as the golden glow faded from her skin. The chamber around them dimmed, returning to its original state of eerie stillness. Her team stared at her, their expressions a mix of relief and unease. She looked different, stronger, but also distant, as if part of her was no longer entirely human. "What happened in there?" Kale asked, breaking the silence. "You were out for hours." "I faced the trials," Elena replied, her voice steady, but tinged with exhaustion. "The shield tested me, to see if I'm worthy of becoming its host." "And?" Zane pressed, his tone sharper than usual. "Are you? Or are we about to get sucked into some cosmic death trap?" Elena hesitated, glancing down at her hands. For a moment, she didn't answer. Then she spoke, her words measured and heavy. "I passed, but it came with a price." Rhea stepped closer, concern etched on her face. "What kind of price?" "The shield isn't just a machine. It's alive, or at least partially so. To activate it fully, I'll have to merge with it completely. My consciousness will become one with the artifact." She paused, taking a deep breath. "It means I won't be normal anymore. I'll be immortal, in a way, but I won't live like a human. I'll exist as part of the shield, connected to the galaxy forever." Kale frowned, shaking his head. "That sounds less like saving the galaxy and more like turning yourself into a walking power source. You can't seriously consider doing this." "It's not just about me," Elena shot back, her voice rising slightly. "If I don't do this, the devourer will keep destroying star systems. Billions, maybe trillions, of lives are at stake. We've been ignored by the galaxy for centuries because we weren't strong enough or advanced enough. This is our chance to change that, to prove we're capable of greatness. But at what cost? Rhea asked softly. You'll lose everything. Your family, your freedom, your humanity. Is it worth it? Alina met her gaze, unwavering. Yes, because if I don't do this, humanity stays forgotten. Worse, we could end up victims of the Devourer too. This isn't just about me. It's about all of us. About proving that we deserve a place among the stars. The crew fell silent, each lost in their own thoughts. They knew Elena was right. The galaxy wouldn't wait for humanity to catch up. If they wanted respect, they had to earn it. And sometimes, earning respect meant making sacrifices. Zane broke the tension with a low whistle. Well, if you're really going through with this, I guess we better make sure the Aegis doesn't fall apart while you're busy being a cosmic shield. Can't have Earth's big hero riding in a rust bucket, can we? Despite the gravity of the situation, Elena managed a faint smile. Thanks, Zane. That means a lot. As the group prepared for the final activation, the Arathians reappeared, their shimmering forms materializing near the pedestal. One of them stepped forward, its silver eyes fixed on Elena. You have chosen to bear this burden. Your species has earned our attention, and perhaps our trust. Elena nodded, though she felt no sense of triumph. The weight of what lay ahead pressed heavily on her shoulders. Activating the shield would save the galaxy, but it would also isolate her from everything she loved. Let's do this, she said quietly, placing her hand back on the pedestal. The chamber lit up once more, the golden energy swirling around her like a cocoon. As the process began, Elena closed her eyes, focusing on the connection forming between her mind and the shield. Pain shot through her body, sharp and searing, but she gritted her teeth and endured it. When the light finally faded, Elena stood tall, her presence radiating an otherworldly aura. The shield was active, and humanity's role as protectors of the galaxy had begun. But as the crew watched her, they couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental had been lost along the way. The transformation was complete. Elena stood at the center of the chamber, her body glowing faintly with an ethereal light that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the shield's energy. Her eyes, once warm and human, now shimmered with a golden hue, reflecting the vastness of the cosmos she was now tied to. She turned to face her crew, but there was something distant in her expression, like she was both present and impossibly far away. It's done, she said softly, her voice resonating with an otherworldly echo. The shield is active. Kale took a hesitant step forward, his usual bravado replaced by uncertainty. Elena, are you okay? Are you still? You? She tilted her head slightly, as if considering the question. I'm still here, she replied, though her tone suggested it wasn't a simple answer. But I'm also part of the shield now. It's hard to explain. I can feel everything. The stars, the planets, the life forms scattered across the galaxy. It's overwhelming, but beautiful. Rhea approached cautiously, her hands trembling as she reached out but stopped short of touching Elena. Does it hurt, being connected like this? No, Elena said after a moment. Not physically, anyway. But it's isolating. Like I've stepped into another world entirely. I don't think I'll ever be able to go back to how things were. Zane leaned against one of the floating columns, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. So what now? You're basically a walking force field for the galaxy. What happens when the Devourer shows up? Do we just sit back and let you handle it? Elena shook her head, her gaze steady. The shield isn't just for defense. It's a tool. We'll need to coordinate with the Arathians and other civilizations to use it effectively. Humanity can't fight alone, but together, we might stand a chance. As if on cue, the Arathians reappeared, their presence filling the chamber with an almost oppressive weight. One of them moved closer, its silver skin gleaming under the golden light. Your species has proven itself worthy, it said, its voice cold yet tinged with something resembling respect. The shield is operational. Prepare yourselves, for the devourer approaches. A wave of tension rippled through the crew. They had known the threat was imminent, but hearing it confirmed made it all too real. Kale clenched his fists, his jaw tightening. How much time do we have? Days, the Arathian replied. Perhaps less. The devourer moves faster than anticipated. Alina closed her eyes for a moment, focusing on the connection she now shared with the shield. When she opened them again, her expression was resolute. We'll be ready. Tell your fleets to prepare for evacuation protocols. If we fail, countless lives will depend on their ability to escape. The Arathian nodded before vanishing, leaving the humans alone once more. The chamber grew quiet, the enormity of their task settling over them like a heavy blanket. Rhea broke the silence first. What about Earth? Will the shield protect our planet too? Yes, Alina assured her, though her voice carried a hint of sadness. But activating the shield means humanity will change forever. The galaxy won't ignore us anymore. We'll either be heroes or targets. Either way, nothing will ever be the same. Kale let out a low whistle, running a hand through his hair. Well, I guess we're officially part of the Galactic Club now. No turning back. Zane muttered under his breath. I always knew Earth would end up in some interstellar mess. Despite the gravity of the situation, Alina managed a faint smile. This is our moment. For centuries, we've been ignored, dismissed as insignificant. Now, we're the ones holding the line. Whatever happens next, humanity won't fade into the shadows again. With those words, the crew returned to the Aegis, preparing for the battle ahead. News of the shield spread quickly, and soon messages began flooding in from across the galaxy. Messages of gratitude, awe, and even fear. Humanity had finally earned its place among the stars. But as Alina gazed out at the endless expanse of space, she couldn't shake the feeling that the shield held secrets even the Eldari hadn't understood. And deep within her mind, cryptic whispers hinted at truths yet to be uncovered. The galaxy was watching, and humanity was no longer invisible. The galaxy buzzed with news of humanity's newfound role as guardians of the shield. For the first time, Earth was no longer ignored. It was at the center of attention. Messages poured in from every corner of the cosmos. Pleas for protection, offers of alliance, and even veiled threats. Some civilizations hailed humanity as saviors, while others viewed them with suspicion, fearing what a species capable of wielding such power might do. Back aboard the Aegis, the crew worked tirelessly to prepare for the Devourer's arrival. Alina, now permanently linked to the shield, acted as both strategist and sentinel. Through her connection, she could sense the black hole's approach, a monstrous force tearing through star systems with terrifying efficiency. Its pull distorted space-time itself, leaving devastation in its wake. We've got incoming, Kale announced, his voice tense as he monitored the ship's sensors. Not the Devourer, ships. Lots of them. On the main screen, dozens of vessels appeared on the edge of their scanners. Unlike the sleek designs of the Arathians or other advanced races, these ships were jagged and chaotic, bristling with weapons. Their markings identified them as belonging to the Krylos Syndicate, a coalition of rogue factions known for their aggression and greed. They're here for the shield, Zane growled, slamming his fist against the console. Probably think they can take it and use it for themselves. Alina's expression darkened. They don't understand what they're dealing with. The shield isn't a weapon. It's a protector. If they try to claim it, they'll destroy themselves. Before anyone could respond, the Krylos fleet opened fire. Energy blasts lit up the void, shaking the Aegis violently. Alarms blared as the ship's shields struggled to hold under the barrage. Why are they attacking us? Rhea shouted over the chaos, clutching her seat as another blast rocked the vessel. Don't they realize we're trying to save them too? They don't care, Kel replied grimly, his hands flying across the controls as he maneuvered the Aegis into evasive patterns. All they see is power, and they want it. Alina closed her eyes, focusing on the energy flowing through her. With a deep breath, she reached out to the shield, channeling its power toward the attackers. A massive barrier materialized around the Aegis, deflecting the incoming fire. Then, with a surge of will, she redirected the energy outward, creating a pulse that disabled several enemy ships without causing harm to their crews. The attack slowed but didn't stop. Reinforcements arrived, this time led by representatives of rival alien races who had grown jealous of humanity's sudden rise. The message was clear. Humanity's newfound status threatened the balance of power, and some would rather destroy them than risk being overshadowed. "We can't fight all of them," Zane yelled, frantically patching damaged systems. "We're outnumbered." "No, we're not," Alina said firmly, her golden eyes glowing brighter. She turned to the crew. "Kale, keep the Aegis moving. Rhea, monitor communications. They may have hostages. Zane, focus on keeping our systems online. I'll handle the rest." Summoning every ounce of strength, Alina expanded the shield's reach, enveloping nearby planets and moons in its protective embrace. The act drained her physically, but she held firm, determined to protect innocent lives. Her actions stunned the attackers. Many retreated, unwilling to challenge the shield's immense power. But betrayal came from within. One of the Arathians, the same one who had initially dismissed humanity, contacted the fleet. "The shield is unstable," it lied. "If they continue using it, it could collapse and destroy everything." Panic rippled through the attacking forces, and some began targeting the sphere itself, hoping to sever Alina's connection. The bombardment intensified, forcing her to divert energy back to defend the artifact. "Alina, you're pushing yourself too hard," Rhea cried, noticing the strain etched on her face. "I have to," Alina replied through gritted teeth. "If we lose the shield, we lose everything." As the battle raged, humanity proved its resilience, not just through Alina's sacrifice, but through the unity of her crew. Together, they fought back against overwhelming odds, earning respect even from their enemies. When the dust settled, the attackers withdrew, wary of provoking further retaliation. But the cost was high. The Aegis was battered, and Alina looked weaker than ever. Yet, humanity had survived, and shown the galaxy that they weren't just a forgotten species anymore. Deep within the shield, cryptic whispers grew louder. Alina knew the true test was still to come. The aftermath of the battle left the crew of the Aegis battered but alive. The ship groaned under the strain of its damaged systems, and Zane worked tirelessly to keep it from falling apart entirely. Kale leaned back in the pilot's chair, his face pale with exhaustion. Rhea sat quietly at her station, replaying intercepted communications from the attackers. But all eyes kept drifting toward Alina. She stood near the viewport, gazing out at the swirling stars. Her body shimmered faintly with the golden light of the shield, a constant reminder of the burden she now carried. Though victorious, she looked weary. Her connection to the shield had taken a toll that no one else could fully understand. "We did it," Kale said finally, breaking the heavy silence. "We survived, and we showed the galaxy what humanity's made of." Alina turned to him, her glowing eyes softening slightly. "For now, yes, but this isn't over. The Devourer is still out there, and the shield, it's not just a tool. It's alive, in a way. I can feel it learning, adapting, and sometimes I think it's hiding things from me." Rhea frowned, leaning forward. "What do you mean? Hiding what?" "I don't know yet," Alina admitted, "but the Eldari AI embedded in the shield keeps sending me fragments of information, visions of alternate realities, warnings about choices I haven't made yet. It's like it's trying to prepare me for something bigger than stopping the Devourer." Zane let out a low whistle, shaking his head. "Of course, because saving the galaxy once wasn't enough. Why stop there when you can mess with timelines and parallel universes too?" Despite the tension, Alina managed a faint smile. "It's overwhelming, but it's also hopeful. The shield isn't just a defense mechanism. It's a key to understanding the universe, maybe even reshaping it. As if on cue, the sphere pulsed gently, projecting a holographic map of the galaxy into the cockpit. The red dot representing the Devourer loomed large, closer than ever before. Its pull distorted nearby star systems, swallowing planets whole as it advanced relentlessly. "We need to act fast," Alina said, turning back to the others. "The Arathians are mobilizing their fleets, and other civilizations are contributing ships too. We'll need everyone working together if we're going to stabilize the Devourer long enough to neutralize its threat." Kale nodded, determination replacing his earlier fatigue. "Then let's get moving. Humanity didn't come this far to fail now." With renewed resolve, the crew plotted a course toward the Devourer's projected path. Along the way, messages continued pouring in from across the galaxy: gratitude, admiration, and even apologies for years of neglect. Earth was no longer ignored. It was respected, feared, and relied upon. When they reached the Devourer's edge, Alina channeled the shield's full power, creating an immense barrier that slowed its advance. The effort nearly overwhelmed her, but she held firm, knowing failure wasn't an option. Slowly, the black hole began to stabilize, its destructive force contained. For now. As the galaxy celebrated their victory, Alina retreated into solitude, focusing on deciphering the shield's secrets. She knew the true test lay ahead, not just protecting the galaxy, but ensuring humanity remained worthy of its newfound role. In the end, humanity had proven itself, not through conquest or dominance, but through sacrifice and unity. They were no longer forgotten primitives. They were guardians of the future, ready to face whatever challenges awaited among the stars.